a week ago, my buddy Gil and I went over to a giveaway at a local church. And one thing I'd love to find are books. And I haven't showed you very many books lately that I found, but I want to show you some of these because I found some really great ones there. Gil found other stuff. I'm always looking for the books. Quite often he picks up books for me too, but this day I happened to be there too, and I was glad I was because I found this book, which is called We Took to the Woods, and it was written by Louise Dickinson Rich, and it is the story of a family that went to the woods to live solo by themselves, basically. And it is a lovely book. It has photographs throughout of the trying to find another one here, of the family and their adventures in living on their own and being self-sufficient. Here's one of the author and her two boys, her son and the little dog there. Well, it's not such a little dog. It's a wonderful book, a wonderful read, and it runs about 322 pages exactly, and it was published in 1942 by the J.B. Lippincott Company. It is a third impression, so it's not a first edition, but it's still a nice edition. Real nice in-leaf papers, fly-leaf papers. And so, yeah, a really, really nice book and an interesting read that I'm anxious to get to the point where I can sit down and enjoy that book. Now, this one is kind of an interesting looking, an interesting looking book. It's soft covered. It's like a leather suede type cover, and it is called Elbert Hubbard's Scrapbook. And it's not actually a scrapbook as we would think of it, but it is filled with all kinds of sayings and verses and really little short stories that are encouraging and that are interesting and oftentimes fun to read. Here is a picture of Mr. Hubbard. Now the book has seen better days. You see the cover is loose, but that's okay. I really like it. I like the layout of the title page, and it says printed and made into a book by the Roycrofters at their shops in East Aurora, Erie County, New York State. William H. Wise Company, New York, Roycroft Distributors. This was published in 1923, and let me just share with you one or two of the little pieces out of here that I found particularly interesting. It says here, all truth is safe and nothing else is safe, and he who holds back the truth or withholds it from men from motives of expediency is either a coward or a criminal or both. Written by Max Mueller. And then we got another one here. America has furnished to the world the character of Washington, and if our American institutions had done nothing else, that alone would have entitled them to the respect of mankind. Written by Daniel Webster. And yeah, it's full of things like that. It's a really neat little book. It reminds me of the way early books were printed with the large colored initials and things like that. Nice volume. Never seen it before. Glad to put it in my collection. There was another scrapbook. This one is Tony's scrapbook. This one is later. This was published in 1942 during World War II by the Riley and Lee Company in Chicago. This is the 1942-43 edition Tony scrapbook, and there's Tony. That's what Tony looks like. The book has an attractive cover, so typical of the 1940s, late 30s, early 40s. It is, again, inspirational little short pieces like the other book that I just showed you. The layout is a lot different, but very nice, very nice. But this actually has in it, 123 pages, and interestingly, the pages are spelled out instead of the numbers. So another very cool book in excellent condition, excellent condition. Then we also have this one I really like, and this is an older one. This is The Last Days of Pompeii, a classic work. This is a classic edition. It's printed in 1885, certainly a long ways from when the original was published, but it is still a very nice old book. Now, its one debit is that the flyleaf here is torn, but it has a nice inscription to Jesse Dagger, St. Paul, South School, Exmouth, 1887. It was actually published in 1885, and it was written by Sir Edward Bulwer Lytton. And here's the illustration. You know, on the flyleaf, this book is really lengthy. It's really lengthy. Just about 400 pages, and the type is pretty small. And, you know, for me to sit down and read this book, it would take a very long time. But at the day that this was published, well, they didn't have radio, they didn't have TV, they didn't have talking machines yet, I don't think. So reading was the main entertainment other than theater and things of that nature. Excellent book, excellent book. If you've never read it, excuse me, if you've never read it, take a chance, take an opportunity to pick it up at a library and read at least part of it. Excellent book. Also, here on my channel, I have the CBS Radio Mystery Theater adaptation of The Last Days of Pompeii in 5 parts, but they're all presented in one installment. Excuse me. Don't know what's going on. All right. Anyways, here we have a book of Burns poetry. And Burns is, of course, we all know, no way, not Frank Burns from MASH, but Robert Burns. And there's a nice engraving of him. It is his complete poetical works, printed by Hearst and Company, New York. They were big publisher back then. When is back then, though? It has no copyright date. But judging by the overall appearance of the book, I'm thinking 1920s maybe. It has all his poetical works, and an awesome book. I'm not particularly drawn to to poetry, but the few that I've read out of here is very good. And this runs 298 pages and is in remarkably good condition. I'd like to say that I'll read it, but I can't say that for sure. There were a number of fiction books too. Now, I'm not big on vintage or antique fiction, except, like adolescent stories and that from the late 1800s and early 1900s. But here's one called The Shuttle, and written by Francis Hodgson Burnett. Very nice little lithograph illustration there in the center. Very nice cover. So typical of the era that it belongs to, which is 1906, 1907. This is not the first edition, I'm sure. But it was published by Grosset and Dunlop, who published a lot of fiction back in the day then. And there are no illustrations. It's in pretty good condition. And it is 512 pages long. Again, they must have spent a tremendous time reading, which was great. I wish that I had more time to read now, but I don't. Then I have A White Bird Flying. And this one, I'm going to guess, is like maybe from the 1940s, again, 1940s, early 1950s. Boy, was I off. It's 1931, and it was written by Bess Streeter Aldrich, published by D. Appleton and Company in New York and London, and again, 1931. It is a fiction book. I've not read it, probably won't read it. It's just a really attractive volume, and I'm, pleased to have it in my collection. But again, someday, you never know, I might read it. A White Bird Flying, and I like that little illustration like there on the cover. So 1931 on that one. 2 more. This one, Miss Archer, and it is another fiction novel. This belonged to Lucy Eddy. Now, there was a very famous family where I live in the Saginaw area here, last name of Eddy. In fact, there's a huge building downtown, the Eddy Building. And I'm trying to check out to see if this book had belonged to one of those Eddys. So I will update you on that if and when I find that out. This was printed in 1897, and it's called Miss Archer Archer. And it is a novel by Clara Louise Burnham. And very nice condition inside. A lot of shelfware on the outside, common to books of this era. And it has 312 pages. Very nice book. Again, one that I probably won't read, but it's still nice to have in the collection. Ta-da-ta-da. Last but not least, The Fashionable Adventures of Joshua Craig. And this was written by David Graham Phillips. And I didn't find a lot of adventures like this that were written by men, but this one is. It is has an inscription on it from somebody to Mamie. November 23rd, 1913 is when it was given, much after it's published. But I imagine these stayed in stores a long time too. This could have been brand new on the shelf. It's still from what did I say? 19 whatever. 19, I'm trying to find it. 1909. Yeah, 1909. Anyways, as a novel, it has more to do with, topics that would be of interest to the gentleman of the time. It is 365 pages. The pages are in nice shape, very little yellowing. Actually, not a lot of cover wear too, a little bit up here on the edges, but a really nice volume also. So I hope you enjoyed taking a look at those. I enjoyed sharing those with you, and I will talk to you all again real soon. God bless you. Love you all very much. On the other side of that screen, I come to you from the frozen wasteland known as Saginaw, Michigan, and I'm tired of this damn winter, and I'm ready for it to be over with. I want to get out and find a place to dig. But for now, I'm sorry. I'm whining. God bless you all. Love you. See you soon.